Thank you. Uh, Hello. So I'm going to show you guys how to create a mastery path in the shell, and then also show what it looks like from the student view when you have a mastery path in a module. Um, and so first we're going to start out going into the modules. The modules is where you first create your mastery path. I have a couple examples here to show the difference of what a module with MasteryPaths looks like versus just a traditional module, which you should all be familiar with. So my first module 1 is one that has MasteryPaths already set up. And the way we can indicate that, of course, is on the right here. You have the buttons and you have the links to show that there's MasteryPaths in this module. And for this presentation, I'll use my module 2 as an example. It's a clean module with no mastery paths. So whatever is required for every student in the class, that needs to already be included in your module before you create the mastery path. And again, the mastery path is a way to help individualize learning, and you can create different paths depending on what you want your students to do in addition to the required work, if any. So when you create mastery paths in Canvas, there's no clear indication or instructions for the students about the paths. So there's nothing that's going to tell them which way they're going to go when completing assignments or any work in the module. You actually have to provide that for the students. So I recommend putting this in like the overview section here or a front page section, module overview, just putting the instructions there for the students so that they know which paths they may take in the module, again, which is individualizing, tailoring their learning. So I have a couple examples of ways that you can display to the students the paths that they'll go. So the first one is a flow chart. So you can create a flow chart for the students, and for this example that I got offline, all the things that are required for the students are listed here at the top. And then the path depends on this pre-assessment test that the students will take. So according to this path, if they get an 80%, or if they get below an 80%, they'll go to the level 2 learn, and they'll complete all of the level 2 learning. And then they'll do the artifacts for the module. And once they complete that, they'll go to level 3, and then they'll go on and so forth to get to the completion. And then again over here, if they get an 80% or higher on this assessment, then they'll go straight to level 3, skipping level 2, and then they follow the same path. So that's the great thing about, again, Mastery Paths is you can individualize that learning for your students, give them additional resources or information that they may need to be successful. And you can, again, display that here in a flowchart. And the other example that I have for how you can explain to the students the paths that they'll take, you can just have written instructions. And this is the actual example of the mastery path that I'm going to create to show you how to make or create a mastery path in your shell. So for example, for the only quiz that's in Module 2, if they score a 0 on the quiz, then they will complete the supplemental assignment and review the TED Talk. And then if they get a 50 out of 100, then they'll do the supplemental assignment or the TED Talk, and so on and so forth. Okay, so those are the parameters for my mastery path. And so this is what the students will be able to see on their end. Again, because Canvas does not, it will not tell them what the path is. You have to provide that information for the students. So that would be the first step to, in the beginning in the process, to create a mastery path. The next step is to create any supplemental or additional assignments that you're requiring for your students to do in the class. So again, this is the example that I'll be using today for the mastery path that I'll create. So for this mastery path, there's only one supplemental or additional assignment that the students would do that does not give them credit outside of what's already required in the module. Because the TED Talk, if we go back just to show you, is already a required discussion board. So with the score of the 50 or the 70, it's simply just you're revisiting the TED Talk. And then with the 50, you have to do the supplemental assignment in addition to the TED Talk. Okay, so what you have to do is, because I have this supplemental assignment that I want my students to complete, let's say if they do get a 50, I have to go and actually create that assignment. So you'll go into the assignments, and here you'll create whatever supplemental work or assignments that you want to give to the students, or if you have quizzes, you will create those first, put those in the quizzes area. Anything additional that's going to go into the past needs to already be developed and made. Okay, so I recommend that if you do MasteryPaths, that you have just an assignments block that has all the assignments that are due for every student in its own group, and then you have the supplemental or the MasteryPath assignments or discussions or whatever it is in its own group. And that's just a better way to keep everything organized, and so that you know, okay, what your students can see and what they cannot see from their view, which I will show you once we create the path. Okay, so first you make sure your module is created, and then you map out your path, and then you have to create those supplemental assignments. So for this example, I'm just going to create supplemental assignment. I'm going to call this one 4. Okay, select my due date, 31st, come on, 30. Okay, and I'm going to make mine out of 0 points. And the reason why, again, I'm doing it out of 0 points is because this is a supplemental assignment that's assigned to students who get a 50 or a 70 on the quiz. So it's not anything that is going to be required for all the students. So I don't want to add any value to this assignment because that could throw off the grade book. Okay, so I keep mine at 0. Okay, so I'll save and publish. Okay, once you've done that, you'll actually have to go into your assignment by clicking the title, of course, and then you'll edit the assignment. Computer's a little slow. And once you have that opened up, you're going to stay in the Details tab. Of course, you add in your prompt or any instructions that you have for this assignment here. Oh, instructions, okay. You add your prompt, okay, there, and then again I have it out of 0 points. But I do want to mention, if you want to add value to your supplemental assignment just for grading purposes, just to make sure that they actually did retain the information, you can put points there. But you just want to make sure that you check this box where it says do not count this assignment towards the final grade. So that's very important with these supplemental assignments that, again, are not for any type of, they're not for value, because every student's not going to have to do this. If someone gets a 100 on the quiz, they don't have to do this assignment, so I don't want those who get a 50 to get extra credit for this assignment. So I want to make sure first that this is checked, that it does not count towards the final grade, and then of course you can update your submission type and anything necessary, for the actual assignment that you're doing. And then the most important part of your supplemental assignments is you need to change the assign area. So instead of assigning this to everyone, you're going to take that away, and you're only going to assign this to MasteryPaths. Okay? And the reason why you're assigning it only to MasteryPaths is, again, to ensure that all students cannot see this assignment. Because if they can all see it, but they can't all do it, that can create some issues, unnecessary emails of, do I have to do this assignment? So if you only assign it to MasteryPaths, it keeps it hidden from the students unless they actually have to do it. Okay? So once you've created your assignment, you've set your parameters, you've assigned it to the MasteryPaths, again, made it so it's not counting towards the final grade, then you'll save, and the warning will come up to make sure that you're absolutely sure that you don't want this assignment to be assigned to everyone. And again, I do not. So I'll click continue. All right. And then you'll see here it's due the MasteryPaths, and then if I had included any prompt or any information, it would be visible there. Okay. So once you've created all of your supplemental assignments or quizzes, then you're ready to actually create the path. Okay. So the way you create the path, again, is in the module section. So you'll go back to modules here. And this example that I'm going to do is actually different than what I'll recommend. What I recommend is that when you create a path, you create the path using a quiz that is automatically graded. Okay, and the reason why I say that is because if you have students who have to do these supplemental assignments, if they have gotten, let's say, the 50 or the 70 on the quiz, you don't want them to have to wait for you to grade it before they're able to go to finish their path. So if you have things that are automatically graded, then it allows the student immediate access to continue to finish all the work in their path. For this example, I'll have to grade this, and you'll see how the student view looks different when it's graded versus when it's not graded. And that'll be the last thing that I show you. So again, I recommend starting with the quiz that's automatically graded. Okay, so I'm going to use my quiz again. That was what I had indicated in my overview section, that depending on what you get on the quiz depends on the path that you take. So when you're ready to create your MasteryPath, you'll click on whatever assignment or quiz is the starting point of that MasteryPath. And for, again, this example, it's the quiz. So you'll click on the title to open it up. Okay. And then once it's open, you'll go to the Edit button. And again, this was already created. This is what is required for all the students in this module. So all this information will already be here because you would have already created it. Okay? You're going to leave everything in the Details tab the same, which is up here at the top. And even in the Questions tab, your Questions tab will stay the same. But when you have access to MasteryPaths, you'll have the MasteryPaths tab. So this is where you're going to create the path that you want for your students. Okay, so you have your options here. You have your total points possible. These are the points that you had indicated previously in the Questions tab. This question is worth 100 points. And so when I'm in my MasteryPath, that pre-populates to however many points I've already indicated in the Questions tab. So you can change these values to, if they get 45 out of 70, if they get 80 out of 70, 80 out of 100 or 40 out of 100. You can change these values to be whatever you want them to be. Okay, so 89, okay, for the sake of this, okay? So for my MasteryPath, I said that if a student got a 50 out of 100 points, they are going to do the supplemental assignment, or they're going to do the TED Talk. Okay, so that's the path that I've already indicated. So now to create that, you're going to click on the plus arrow, on the plus button here, and it opens up where you can add in items. So here I'm going to put in the supplemental assignment that I created specifically for this module was supplemental assignment 4. So I want to put in that one, add that item, as well as the TED Talk item, and then click Add Items. Okay? And when you add the items, they're automatically going to be paired, and it's going to be and. So what this is saying is that if a student gets 50 out of 100, they're going to do the supplemental assignment and the TED Talk. However, I don't want that to be the option. I want the students to have the choice. So I'll click on the and it changes it to or. So now, if the student gets a 50, then they'll have the option between these two assignments to do in their path. okay? And then 89 will say that they'll just do the TED Talk, okay? Add that item. And then if they do 0, they get a 0 out of 100. Then I will have them do the supplemental assignment 4 and revisit the TED Talk and add those items. And I'll leave this as an and, which means they have to do both, okay? And then once you're ready, you're happy with how your path is displayed here in MasteryPaths, and this is what you want, you're going to check mark the corners. And this is just to say, like, you like publishing the module or assignments, just to actually make it happen in Canvas. So I'll check to say, okay, this is what I want, okay, and that's the path that I have here. So now I'll click Save. Okay, and it's saved there. And the way that I can know that my MasteryPath was actually saved is also because on the right panel here where it says MasteryPaths Breakdown, when you revisit this quiz after the students have taken it, you can see where they're falling into, okay, if they're between 50 and 89, how many students got between 0 and 50 on this quiz. So that's a good assessment tool as well to kind of see if they're grasping the material, if they're understanding, or any of that as well. Okay? So now I've set my path, and I'm happy with the way that it looks. If I want to go in and change anything, I can. I can just go back into Edit, and then I can go back to the MasteryPaths, and you can easily edit here. You can click these dots, and you can edit the actual assignment. You can move it up. You can move it down. You can drag and drop if you like. It's up to you. So you can edit the path at any time by just going back in and selecting the dots here in the top corner. Okay, so I'll save that one more time. Right, and then finished again with my path. Again, the path begins with the quiz. And so now I'll go back to my modules because I just want to make sure that my MasteryPath is set. And again, the indication that it is, on my view, is that it says MasteryPaths here on the right. So now I know, okay, that it's set up actually for this quiz, and this is where it starts. It starts with the essay quiz, okay? And that's pretty much it for how you can, how you create a MasteryPath. Now you can create multiple paths, you can add extra assignments, and you can have them do more than one thing, 3, 4 things, however many you want. Again, this is just going to be a very basic path for these students. Okay, so now I want to show you what does this look like for the students. Again, the students will not be able to see these indications that there's a MasteryPath. You would have had to put that information in the overview section. So I'm going to go into my student view to show you what it looks like on their end. Okay, so this is the student view. Okay, so as a student, I haven't done anything in my modules, nothing for the learning path. When I go to the modules, this is what I see. I see the essay quiz, but then I see something down here that says locked until essay quiz is graded. Okay, so the students know that there might be something additional, but it's based off of this. Okay, and that's why I said that it's important to put something in the overview section to let the students know what they would have to do if they got a certain score, or how well they're mastering the material in the class. Okay, so anything that has that is based on the MasteryPath will be locked until whatever is graded. Okay, and again, that's why I say that if you're going to start a MasteryPath, it should be something that's automatically graded so that the student can just move through their path without having to wait for it to be graded by the professor. And to show you also what the grades looks like for the students. Okay, because when I created that assignment, I made it only visible for those who were in that MasteryPath. The student cannot see that supplemental assignment 4 on their grades, and also because it's not counted towards their full grade. So that's good as well, you know, so that students don't get confused with assignments that are there that don't have any value or do not help them numerically, I guess, for their grade. Okay, so I'm going to go in as a student, and I'm actually going to take this quiz to show you what it looks like when that is unlocked. Okay, so I'll go in just quickly here. And let's say, you know, as a student, they have the same view, even though this is dependent on the path, and then they'll submit it. Again, the quiz that I have here is something that I have to grade myself. So then I'll go back. So I've done it. It gave me a 0. I'm going to go in now as the professor. So I'll leave the student view. Okay. And then I'll go into the grades. Okay, and I see that, you know, my test student did do this assignment. So I'll go in and I'm going to give them a 50. Okay, and I'll update it. Okay, and remember, for my MasteryPath, if we go back, just to keep everybody on the same page here. In the modules, if I go back to my overview, if a student got a 50, they would be required to do the supplemental assignment or the TED Talk. So that's what should be visible to the student. Okay, so since I, the student, got a 50, I'm going to go back into the student view so that you can see what it should look like for them. Okay, make sure it updates here. It still didn't do it. Okay. Okay, hold on one second. Just taking a minute to update to let that be available, because in my MasteryPaths I have it set for OR. Make sure that this published like it was supposed to. Sometimes when I go back from the student view to the instructor view, it takes a minute to update the grade and to unlock it for me. So I have the 50. Go back in through the student view. Okay, it's graded. I don't know why it's not updating here. But when it updates, because it hasn't yet, I should have an option here at the bottom where it says I can pick between the TED Talk and the supplemental assignment. But it still says until it's graded. Although I have graded it in the other view, it just hasn't set yet. But when it does, the student would be able to see the option here and select it. So my Canvas, it seems like to be running a little slow, but if it were to update actually in my student view, that would be what I would be able to see. So that's it for how to create the MasteryPath. I'm sorry, what'd you say, Dr. Newford?
Yeah, I just pulled it up and it looks like it's working for me. So let me take Center, show this screen, and then I'll give you keyboard and mouse if you want, so you can take over from my screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there it is. Okay, right. So this is what your student would be able to see. It'll say choose assignment group and 2 options, and when they click it open it, they'll be able to select this option or this option based off of the parameters, again, that I set in the instructor view for my MasteryPath. So thank you, Dr. Newford. I'm glad yours updated. But again, that's that's it for the Mastery Path. It's very easy to create Mastery Paths for the students and to allow them to do, again, any supplemental work or to revisit any assignments. You can create multiple paths. You can change things. You can have them going from one thing to the other. It's completely up to you, but it's a great tool to use in Canvas. And that is the end of my presentation.